With the nation's general election just 2 weeks away, overseas voting for Koreans living abroad began today and will run until the first day of April. In the meantime, official campaigning kicks off nationwide here at midnight. The number of newborn babies hit a fresh low in January. The latest findings continue to sound the alarm on Korea's chronic population woes. Over in the U.S., a major bridge in Baltimore collapsed after a cargo ship collided with it, leaving 6 people unaccounted for. It's March 27, 2024. This is Newscenter. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. With the nation's general election set for April 10th, Korean voters residing overseas are heading to their embassies or consular centers starting today to have their voices heard. Shin Ha-young begins our coverage.
The general election in South Korea is scheduled for April 10th, just 2 weeks from now. Overseas voting for Koreans living abroad began on Wednesday. However, overseas voting is only available for those who register in advance. Korean citizens without a permanent address in Korea can vote for proportional representatives in the assembly. Those with a permanent address may vote for both proportional and regional lawmakers. According to the National Election Commission, for the upcoming general election, nearly 148,000 overseas voters have registered, accounting for about 7.5% of the total overseas voters. This marks a roughly 35% decrease from the last presidential election in 2022 and a 14% drop from the previous general election in 2020. In the last general election, the turnout was the lowest ever at 23.8%, mainly due to the impact of COVID-19. By country, the highest numbers of overseas Korean voters are in the U.S. with over 33,600, followed by Japan and China. One overseas voter based in Sweden is hoping for a united National Assembly.
I hope the new parliament understands the issues facing society and remains united to solve problems. Seeing happy families in Sweden, I also hope South Korea works towards creating a fair environment where parents can equally share responsibility for their children.
Meanwhile, the ruling People Power Party's interim leader Han Dong-un is slated to address overseas voters on behalf of the party's satellite party, the People Future Party. Han's focus will be on boosting the rights and interests of overseas Koreans. He is expected to address measures for bridging gaps and reforming welfare, while also appealing for support at the election. The main opposition Democratic Party initiated its campaign last week, aimed at encouraging Koreans living overseas to vote. The party pledged to strengthen support for fostering the identity of overseas Koreans by increasing aid to Korean schools and expanding scholarships. It also stressed its commitment to providing them with the same level of administrative service as those available domestically. A total of 220 polling stations in 115 countries will be open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. for voters until April 1st. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
Official campaigning for the upcoming general election will begin at midnight. Eligible candidates vying for seats in the National Assembly will carry out their campaigns for 13 days up until the day before in-person voting on April 10th. Ruling People Power Party interim leader Han Dong-hun will start off greeting people at a traditional market in the Songpa-gu district of southeastern Seoul. Lee Jae-myung, the main opposition Democratic Party's leader, will start off in the center of the capital at Yongsan Station. Candidates can use public address systems to deliver speeches in open areas as well as pass out their name cards. The number of newborns sank substantially lower in January this year, aggravating concerns over Korea's population decline. Lee Soo-jin has the latest numbers.
The number of births in South Korea dropped again in the first month of the year. Data from Statistics Korea on Wednesday shows that the number of births came to 21,442 in January, down 7.7% compared to the same month last year. That's the lowest on record for any month of January. The number of deaths came to 32,490, falling 0.5% compared to the previous year. But the officials said the drop is mostly due to the COVID-19 pandemic-related deaths that were reported in January 2023, and that the agency expects to see an increase in the number of deaths in the future due to South Korea's aging population. With the number of deaths once again exceeding the number of births, the decline in natural population, calculated by subtracting the number of deaths from the number of births, came to some 11,000. South Korea has now seen a drop in its natural population for 51 consecutive months, and the agency expects to continue to see a decline in the coming months. The number of registered marriages, however, rose 11.6% to some 20,000. And the number of divorces was also up 9.5% to nearly 8,000. The agency said that the on-year rises were mostly because there were more working days where people could register their marriages and divorces in January this year compared to last year when Seollal, or the Lunar New Year, was in the first month of the year. He added that further observation is needed to see whether there will be an uptick in the number of marriages this year. 이수진, Arirang News.
Turning to the standoff between the government and doctors over medical reform. Having reaffirmed its intentions to push ahead with medical school quota expansion, the government is now sharing its plans for a special healthcare allocation from the national budget. Choi Soo-hyung has more.
Amidst the ongoing conflict regarding the government increasing the medical school enrollment quota, the Health Ministry said it will announce a special budget by the end of May.
To ensure concentrated and stable funding, we plan to operate a special account for essential medical services. The next 2 months will be the most important time for budget planning, with a budget request submitted to the Ministry of Economy and Finance by the end of May.
Meanwhile, the presidential office announced plans on Wednesday to increase healthcare spending to ensure that essential medical services are restored to their appropriate levels.
The Yoon Suk-yeol administration plans to place the healthcare sector on an equal footing with constitutional duties such as security and public safety. The government aims to make bold investments into medical services.
In the spending plan, the government announced it promised to take over the responsibility for the practical training of trainee doctors itself. The government will also allocate additional funding to regional healthcare and research and development into the expansion of essential medical services outside Seoul. Meanwhile, it is sticking to its regional medical school quota increased to 2,000 students beginning next year and has finalized allocations for each school. At the same time, the government continues to urge for dialogue with the Korean Medical Association. On Tuesday, pediatrician Im Hyun-taek was elected as the new leader of the KMA with 65% of the votes cast. He has voiced opposition to the government's plan and could push for an even larger scale collective action. The exodus of medical school professors nationwide has continued, including almost 430 at Ulsan University and around 400 at Seoul National University. To minimize disruption to patient care, the government says it will deploy an additional 1,900 physician assistant nurses and 200 more public health doctors. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
South Korea will remove 18 quasi-taxes imposed on citizens and firms, including those on movie tickets. On Wednesday, President Yoon Suk-yeol said the move is intended to encourage economic activity by reducing the annual burden on households and businesses by roughly 2 trillion won or $1.5 billion. The Finance Ministry's plan to revise 32 charges includes scrapping the current 3% charge on movie ticket prices and a reduction of around $3 in departure fees on airfare. Also, the government will have environmental mitigation fees on small business owners with diesel cars and reduce charges for electricity. Yoon also said 263 regulations will be temporarily suspended to benefit smaller firms. Big-name companies LG and Hyundai have unveiled their own plans for investment in future advanced industries worth billions of dollars. Our Park Go-nu tells us more about these new business strategies.
South Korean conglomerates LG and Hyundai Motor Group are set to invest domestically in advanced industries to raise their competitiveness. According to LG during its annual shareholders meeting in Seoul on Wednesday, it'll be investing 100 trillion won, or over $74 billion within Korea for the 5 years until 2028. That's around 65% of the company's global investment total. LG said around 50 trillion won will be invested in future technologies, including AI and bio, along with pivotal business fields such as batteries and next-generation displays. The company aims to make Korea a manufacturing hub of research and development and smart factories.
As there is a high possibility of AI being a game changer in our society, it is a good idea for companies to invest in important fields such as AI, bio, and secondary batteries.
On the same day, Hyundai also announced its midterm plans for investment and employment in advanced industries. The company said it will be investing 68 trillion won, or roughly $50.4 billion, for 3 years including this year, with each year's investment volume at around 22 trillion won. That is a 30% increase compared to 2023. And most of the investment will be allocated to R&D, including technologies for software-defined vehicle, and building new electric vehicle plants along with research infrastructure. Hyundai plans to diversify its EV lineup to up to 31 models and expand its annual car production to over 1.5 million units by 2030. Hyundai will also be hiring around 80,000 people, and more than half of that number will be workers in advanced industries. One expert predicts a bright future for companies investing in these fields.
If Korean companies could develop technologies and products through R&D, there'll be more investment from overseas.
He added that building partnerships between these companies and the government will also be important to the development of future industries. 박건우, Arirang News.
South Korea's Navy has been staging maritime live-fire drills since Monday in waters off the country's eastern, western, and southern coasts to mark West Sea Defense Day. The day, which lands on the fourth Friday of March, memorializes the 55 South Korean troops who were killed between 2002 and 2010 in the West Sea while defending the northern limit line. This week's training was held to honor the deceased service members and to ramp up readiness against North Korea's maritime threats. The Navy mobilized some 20 warships, including the Gwanggae-to the Great-class destroyer, and around 10 planes, including maritime surveillance aircraft. The training will take place until Friday. Over in the U.S., a major bridge in Baltimore collapsed after a cargo ship collided with it, leaving 6 people unaccounted for. Shin Se-byuk with the latest.
On Tuesday, the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland, U.S. collapsed after a massive cargo ship, which officials say lost power, crashed into it.
A Singapore-registered vessel with the name Dali, D-A-L-I, which made contact with the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland, at around 1:30 a.m. this morning.
2 people were pulled from the river below following the accident. One was rescued with no major injury, and the other was taken to hospital, reportedly in a serious condition. The U.S. Coast Guard on Tuesday evening suspended search and rescue efforts for 6 members of a road crew who were working on the bridge until early on Wednesday due to impending weather conditions. According to an official from their construction firm, the missing workers are presumed dead, considering the depth of water and length of time since the collision. Maryland Governor Wes Moore said in a briefing on Tuesday that the vessel signaled a problem with its power, leading authorities to stop traffic on the bridge between the ship's mayday call and the collision, noting the warning likely saved lives. The Port of Baltimore, where the Key Bridge was positioned, stands as the U.S. premier hub for automobile imports and exports, as it's deemed a key entry point to the eastern U.S. and the Atlantic Ocean. In the aftermath of the disaster, the Maryland state government declared a state of emergency and put an indefinite hold on port operations, potentially impacting the domestic auto supply chain. Following the accident, U.S. President Joe Biden held a briefing where he said he would visit Baltimore at the earliest opportunity. He reassured the public that although investigations into the cause of the accident are ongoing, there is no indication of terrorism.
At this time, we have no other indication, no other reason to believe there's any intentional act here.
Biden stressed the importance of concentrating on search and rescue efforts at this time, with plans to promptly move forward with bridge reconstruction. He also pledged that the federal government will pay the full cost of rebuilding the key bridge and asked for the cooperation of Congress in this matter. 신세벽, Arirang News.
Through our previous series on robots, we know of robots that can make coffee and those can do delivery. But some are now looking to assist humans in the manufacturing process. Our An Song-jin went out to check out the latest technologies at one of Asia's leading technology exhibitions.
Robots are now being looked at to lead automation in the manufacturing industry. Smart Factory and Automation World 2024, hosted by the Ministries of Trade and SMEs, kicked off on Wednesday, showcasing various robots from more than 400 companies with nearly 70,000 people participating.
The solution to a lack of manpower is a digital transformation, and applying technology like AI can boost productivity and increase safety in the workplace.
Hanwha Robotics, which first launched collaborative robots in 2017, develops robots that are used in multiple industries, including those of automobiles and electronics. These robots perform not only simple tasks such as picking up and placing heavy objects, but are also capable of screwing things in, polishing, and welding. They have a similar reach to a human being and can help when a workspace is narrow.
As the working population is shrinking, these robots can fill gaps in the unstable employment market. Workers also get to do more productive tasks rather than tedious jobs. We're looking to create a total robot solution.
Similarly, this company, Rainbow Robotics, also provides solutions for automation with its specialization in humanoid robots. The company provides manufacturing collaborative robots such as robotic arms to boost productivity. Its two-armed robot is being introduced for the first time at this exhibition. At 120 to 170 centimeters tall and weighing around 50 kilograms, they can perform the exact same tasks a human can with 5 fingers on each hand that can bend and pick things up. With artificial intelligence, they can also easily perform input tasks.
We're now looking to focus more on autonomous mobile robots that can assist workers in the retail sector, including humanoid robots. The possibility for automation is near infinite, and it's important to have an internalized platform like ours.
The global automation market is expected to grow up to nearly $400 billion by 2029 from $200 billion in 2022.
With continuous government support, the sales of domestically built industrial robots are expected to grow up to 3.1 trillion won, or $2.3 billion by the end of this year. An Song-jin, Arirang News.
On to sports. The South Korean men's national football team put their recent struggles behind them on Tuesday night with a 3-0 win over Thailand in the World Cup qualifying match. It was all the more significant after a recent spat within the team. Lee Seung-jae explains why.
After a disappointing 1-1 draw in front of a sold-out crowd in Seoul last week, the South Korean national football team took on Thailand again on Tuesday night, this time in Bangkok. The team looked much more composed in the return World Cup qualifying fixture, cruising to a 3-0 victory. The Taeguk Warriors took the lead in the first half when striker Cho Kyu-sung's close-range shot in the 19th minute was tapped in by Lee Jae-sung. Captain Son Heung-min scored in his second straight match after the break to give South Korea a 2-0 lead. And who better to link up with Son for the second goal than Lee Gang-in, who was mired in a controversy after the AFC Asian Cup last month when it was reported that the two scuffled over a game of table tennis a day before their semi-final match against Jordan, which led to an injured finger for Son. Lee suffered heavy criticism from fans for what they said was inappropriate behavior toward the highly respected Son, which led to a public apology from Lee after he joined the national team last week. But it seems they have put their troubles behind them as they celebrated the second goal of the match, with Lee jumping into the arms of Son. Hyundai FC midfielder Park Jin-sup, a second-half substitute, marked his international debut with a goal to make it 3 and seal the win. The win means South Korea now lead Group C with 10 points after 4 matches, while Thailand dropped down to 3rd in the group. China are 3 points behind and 2nd in the group, following a 4-1 win over Singapore last night. South Korea plays both Singapore and China in June. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Warm spring weather that's good for outdoor activities continued today. However, the daily temperature difference is wide at around 15 degrees Celsius, so temperatures will drop back into the single digits after the sun goes down. There will be more rain across the country tomorrow. Rain will expand across the country during the day, starting with the Seoul metropolitan area, Gangwon-do province, and coastal areas of the Jeollanam-do provinces early tomorrow. Up to 40 millimeters of rain will fall on the southern coastal part of Gyeongsangnam-do province and Jeju Island, with thunderstorms and gusts of wind. Other southern regions are expected to receive up to 10 to 20. The amount of rain in central areas such as Seoul will not be large, with less than 5 millimeters. But you should take an umbrella on your way to work tomorrow. Rain clouds will act as blankets, so it won't be chilly in the morning tomorrow. Seoul, Daejeon, and Gwangju 9 degrees, Busan and Jeju 11 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 14 in Seoul, Gwangju, and Busan, Jeju 17 degrees. Clear and cozy spring weather will continue this weekend. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.